President, please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the floor is given to the defense team for Mr. Kyo Sampon to resume the questioning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I will continue with my questions, but I'm almost done. I would like to know if you remember when you recorded the first Vietnamese prisoners at S-21. Do you remember the period when that happened?
It happened a long time ago. I cannot recall it well. If I'm given with a list, I can remember it.
I'm going to try to refresh your memory with what you said in the Duke trial. This was at the hearing of 28 July 2009 in Case 1, therefore, document E3/7466 at around 11:42. And this is the question that was put to you. Vietnamese POWs were brought to S-21. According to you, when did they arrive and how many of them were they? And your answer was the following. As I already said, the Vietnamese prisoners of war arrived on an irregular basis. We would record the prisoners who arrived, generally speaking, but I'm not sure how many Vietnamese prisoners of war were arrested and sent to S-21. I was only making sure that I would complete my job at the end of the day. So the following question was put to you then. Can you tell us if they started arriving in 1976 and if there were Vietnamese POWs in 77 and in 1978? And your answer was the following. In 76 and 77, there were no Vietnamese prisoners of war. It's only when the war broke out that Vietnamese POWs arrived. End of quote. So does this excerpt from your testimony in case 001 refresh your memory in any way? And do you remember indeed that Vietnamese prisoners of war started arriving when the war broke out with Vietnam?
What I can recall is that when the war broke out, there were Vietnamese prisoners of war coming into the prison.
Now, a question regarding this conflict specifically.
President, please hold on. You may proceed now, Judge Lavagna.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you ask the witness what he understands by prisoner of war? What does this concept really mean in his eyes? Witness, you heard the question by Judge Lavagna. When, in case 001, you used the term prisoner of war, Vietnamese prisoner of war, whom were you referring to specifically?
Prisoner of war were the soldiers arrested by the army of the Democratic Cambodia regime. Usually those soldiers were arrested at the border.
vous avez
I don't have the exact references, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But in any case, you spoke about the presence of Vietnamese, either civilians or servicemen at S-21, and the way that you would record them in your lists. So my question is, whether they were civilians or servicemen, did these Vietnamese arrive before the conflict broke out, or was there a difference between both groups?
To my knowledge, I did not know for sure the dates of the arrest of those Vietnamese soldiers. I am not certain when those soldiers had been arrested. Things had happened a long time ago. Regarding the prisoners of war arrested by the Democratic Cambodia Army, those soldiers were arrested during the time of a conflict.
So my follow-up question is, do you remember if Vietnamese civilians arrived pretty much at the same time as the Vietnamese soldiers, or did they arrive at another moment?
As regarding civilian, they were not sent in at the same time as the Vietnamese soldiers. They came at different occasions.
And do you remember when this happened?
As I told you already, it happened a long time ago. I cannot recall exactly when the civilians were sent into the prison. If I am given with the list of prisoners, I would have been able to tell you.
Une question.
And now a question related to the arrival of the Vietnamese and to the conflict. During the training sessions that you attended, apparently you did not attend many, however, and that you did not attend the entire classes. But during these training sessions, did you hear about the conflict that was taking place against Vietnam? And in particular, about the situation at the battlefront. Did you hear anything about that?
Again and again, time had passed a long time ago. I did not pay attention to that particular issue. Whatever said by the people working at the outer complex was not concentrated by me. I only focused on the tasks that I had to perform within the S-21 prison compound.
Et une dernière question.
And a last question now, in order to try to refresh your memory. Do you remember if Vietnamese civilians or people you understood as being Vietnamese civilians, because you only put summary questions to people who arrived, so do you remember if the Vietnamese civilians and the Vietnamese soldiers arrived before the conflict or after the conflict?
I cannot recall it in relation to the incoming Vietnamese prisoners. As for the Vietnamese soldiers, they came in during the time of war or conflict.
I'm going to try to refresh your memory with what you said in case 001 at the hearing of 27 July 2009, document E3/7465, and this was at around 2:45 in the afternoon. And the following question was put to you, or they were asking you if there were Vietnamese soldiers or Vietnamese civilians during the period when there was an armed conflict between Vietnam and Cambodia, and your answer was the following: during the war we received civilians as well as Vietnamese soldiers. So my question, therefore, is the following: does this refresh your memory, and did the Vietnamese, whether civilian or military, arrived before or during the conflict with Vietnam?
President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you may proceed now. Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
I believe that the question is repetitive. There were many attempts already, and the witness was clear each time, and he said clearly that he did not remember whether they arrived before or after the conflict. And here, the excerpt from 2009 does not seem to assist him regarding he said that Vietnamese civilians and servicemen arrived after the conflict, but it doesn't say that whether they arrived before or not. So I don't think that this provides any extra information. So I think that this question is repetitive. I don't see how my question, says Counsel Guisset, is not acceptable. I would like to remind you that in a cross-examination, especially with a witness who says he has problems of memory, it's therefore perfectly normal to confront him with previous statements. If the prosecutor believes that it doesn't assist him, that's not the point. The point is whether or not this assists the witness in refreshing his memory. And here he's saying yes or no. So I don't see how the fact of confronting him with a previous statement is not something that's admissible. So may I please put the question. If he doesn't remember, he doesn't remember. But I am perfectly entitled to ask this question in order to help him refresh his memory.
President, witness, you are allowed to respond to the question lastly put by the defense counsel. And if you recall it, please proceed to the response. Judge Lavenge, you have the floor first.
Well, here again, the point is to specify the question. So the point here is that we're speaking about a conflict. So it would be good to know when the witness places this conflict, which dates is he referring to, or which dates can he refer to with regard to this conflict? Does he consider that there was a conflict during the entire decade period, or is he referring to a specific conflict that took place at a specific moment in time? Well, the question, of course, comes up after other questions, and in my previous questions we spoke about dates, because we spoke about 76, 77, 78, and the witness said that he did not remember exactly, but the issue of dates was already discussed with the witness, and I did put questions in that regard. But I will once again try with the witness. Witness, so when you say that in your answer in the case 1 that during the war you received and civilians as well as soldiers, can you tell us when, in terms of dates, this conflict took place. Do you remember when it started, for example?
I do not remember the month exactly when the war started. I only know that the conflict with Vietnamese started when the prisoners of war were coming into the prison. As for civilians, they were not arrested and sent into S-21 at the same time as the prisoners of war.
And when you say that they were not brought in at the same time, were they brought in before or afterwards?
I cannot tell you for sure about the date of arrival of those civilians. But you can refer to the date of the entry in the lists in relation to the Vietnamese civilians. And the same applies to the prisoners of war, the Vietnamese prisoner of war. If you refer to the list, you will know for sure whether they were sent in after or during or before the conflict.
Well, we will do this research later on, but I wanted to focus on what you remember exactly. Another point now I would like to question you about, very briefly speaking. Now, you might remember the little film that was screened to you, and there were pictures of Pol Pot, and you said that you had the opportunity of seeing Pol Pot on several occasions in images. So can you tell us when you saw Pol Pot on these images and upon which occasion?
I saw the image of Pol Pot on one occasion when that photo image was shown to me or to all of us. I cannot recall the date exactly when I saw that image.
And if you don't remember the date, do you remember where you saw these images and upon which occasion?
I don't want to mention about the date when I saw the photo or photos. I cannot recall the location where the photo or photos were shown to me.
Well, I was not speaking about photographs. I was speaking about a film. And I believed you were speaking about a film when you were answering Judge Lavern's questions. Do you remember if you were still at the PJ when you saw that film, or were you at Tul Sleng? Or did this happen at another moment?
Regarding the film, as I told you, I cannot recall when I saw the film footage, and also I cannot recall the location where the film was played.
Was it during the DK period?
Yes, during the decay period.
And then, did you know what Pol Pot's position was?
The announcement was made over the radio broadcast that Pol Pot was the Prime Minister at the time.
Un dernier
The last point that I would like to cover with you is your detention after the decay period. So these are a few follow-up questions in relation to what you explained to my colleague. Can you tell us who arrested you specifically once the regime fell?
After the Democratic Cambodia regime, I was arrested in 1984. I did not know at the time who exactly or which forces exactly arrested me.
lorsque
When you were questioned in order to know where you were detained, you said that you did not know exactly if this was in Vietnam or in Cambodia. And here I'm referring to your DCCAM interview E3/9320, French ERN 00280501, Khmer 000520003, English 00909-161. Why? Do you have doubts about where you were detained?
I do not know the exact location where I was detained. I was arrested while blindfolded, and the prison compound or cell was completely dark. And I did not know at the time the location of the detention facility or prison.
aux ERN
At the ERN 00280502 in the same document, Khmer 000520004, English 00909-161-262, you say that you were not well, let me simply tell you what you said. So the question that was put to you was the following. Do you believe that this prison was not in Cambodia? And your answer was the following. I don't think it was. The following question then was, how can you assert that the prison was not in Cambodia? Your answer, because there were Vietnamese guards. End of quote. So does this refresh your memory? Is it because you heard Vietnamese guards that you thought that the prison might not have been in Cambodia?
At the beginning, while I was in detention, I do not know for sure how long I was detained at that location. I did not know at the time where I was sent to, and Later on, I heard the sounds and perhaps the sounds of the moving tanks. I was blindfolded when I was taken to that location. That was the dark prison. I saw nothing inside the prison. And later on, I was released and freed to work outside. Most of the guards at the time were Vietnamese. And I was freed usually at night time when I arrived at the parking lot. I was unblindfolded, and I learned that the location was in Vietnam. And later on, as I said, I was released, and I put on a boat and traveling on a river. I reached Chaba Ampel. That was the location where I learned that it was Cambodia.
Yesterday at around 9:08, when you were answering my colleague Victor Kopper, you said that you were released under if you promised to become a good citizen, and that you would not object to them. And when you speak about them, whom are you speaking about?
I read the letter of the release letter. I mean the letter specifying that I was released, and that's what I saw in the letter.
C'était une lettre.
So this letter came from which authority, from which office?
That letter of release was from the army. I cannot remember it clearly, but perhaps it came from Cambodian army.
This will be my last question now. At one point in time when you were detained, were you allowed to defend yourself against the charges leveled against you, to consult your file, to be assisted by a lawyer, and to be tried before judges?
After I had been arrested, I was not entitled to a defense lawyer. I was immediately put in a prison rather.
Monsieur le Président, j'en ai terminé.
Mr. President, I am done with my cross-examination.
President, thank you, Counsel. I'm grateful to you, Mr. Susti. The hearing of your testimony as a witness has now come to an end. Your testimony will contribute to the ascertainment of the truth. You may now be accused and return to anywhere you wish to go or to your residence. I wish you all the best. Thank you, Mr. Momdatir. The Duty Counsel, you may also be accused. Court officers will work with the vessel to send Mr. Susti to his residence or to anywhere he wishes to go.
សំណាក់ការជាបន្តទៅនេះឲ្យ
Next, the chamber will start to hear a witness, Kang Gejeo alias Deutsch, in relation to S21 fact. Security personnel are instructed to bring Kang Gejeo into the courtroom, and court officer, please work with the security personnel to receive the witness and invite him to the courtroom. And the chamber would like to inform the public that a security guard is allowed to sit close to the witness while testifying.
President, good morning, witness. Can you tell the chamber your name? Witness, thank you, Mr. President. My name is Kang Gejeo alias Deutsch. President, thank you. And Mr. Witness, you do not need to operate the microphone as it is being controlled by the AV unit personnel. That is for the purpose of a proper interpretation of your responses. And that would leave a sufficient pause between the question-answer session. And Mr. Kang Gejeo, do you recall when you were born? Witness, I was born on 17 November 1942. Question, and where were you born? Answer, I was born in Bovey village, Pimbang commune, Sturong district, Kampong Thom province. Questioned, and Mr. Kang Gejeo, you are currently serving your sentence at Konda Provincial Prison, is that correct? Answer, yes, that is correct, Mr. President. Question, what are the names of your parents? Answer, my father is Kang Ki and my mother is Mir Kim Siêu. Question, thank you. And what is your wife's name and how many children do you have together? Answer, My wife is Chum Sopal alias Rome. We have 4 children. President, thank you. This morning, the greffier made an oral report that to your best knowledge, you are not related by blood or by law to any of the 2 accused. That is Nunji and Kir Sampon or any of the civil parties admitted in case 002. Is that report accurate? Answer, yes, the report is accurate. President, thank you. And Mr. Kangkei, which religion are you practicing? Answer. Speaking about the religion, I respect Buddhism, Confucian. However, I do not respect a religion and disrespect other religions at the same time. President, amongst the Christians that you respect and practice, which is your main religion amongst them? Answer. I do not practice any religion in principle, as I respect the 3 main religions, that is Buddhism, Confucian, and Christian. And as I testified in my previous trial, I did not ordain as a monk because I could not become a monk since I wanted to get married. As for Christianity, I made my decision in 1973 in order to experience myself in Christianity, and I want to find out why in Eastern Europe people actually practice Christianity. And by 6 January 1996, I was baptized as a Christian. Though I did not become a pastor, however, at the present time, I do not intend to become a pastor, but I am in a position like Deng Xiaoping, who became a member of the Party of China. But in terms of religion, the grandparents believed in Buddhism, but on my in-law side, they believed in Confucian. So I can declare that at present I do not practice any religion, although I respect the 3 main religions. President, the purpose of asking about your religion is for you to either take an oath or to make an affirmation before the chamber. So please tell the court which one that you wish to do, so that you can say that you will tell only the truth in relation to matters that you will be asked by parties in relation to the subject matter before the chamber. Can you do that? witness. Mr. President, yes, I am willing to do that. I solemnly declare that I shall tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. President, thank you, Mr. Witness, and I'd like now to inform you of your rights and obligations as a witness. And for your obligations, the Chairman would like to inform you and the public that the Supreme Court Chamber of the ECCC sentenced Kang Gail alias Deutsch to life imprisonment for grave breaches of the Geneva Convention of 1949 that were committed in Phnom Penh as well as throughout the country for the period between 17 April 1975 to 6 January 1979. And that was in relation to a verdict issued on the 3rd February 2012, and it became final, and this witness is currently serving that sentence. For that reason, the witness shall respond to questions put to you by the bench or by the parties, even though the questions could incriminate you, and that is in relation to the principle of res judicata. And for that reason, you shall respond to all questions put by the bench or by the parties. And accept the questions that are outside the scope of the trial currently before us, and outside the scopes of the sentence that you served, and also as a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you in a limited term, as I just explained. Although the verdict becomes final for your case, that is case 001, you still have a certain right in relation to your rights against self-incrimination. The chamber actually asked questions to the witness in relation to his willingness to have a duty counsel, but Mr. Kang Gail actually did not take up that offer. For that reason, if questions that were put to you by the bench or by the parties are self-incriminated and outside the scope of case 002/02 and outside the scope of cases 02/01, where the verdict will become final soon. And Mr. Kang Gail, could you tell the chamber whether you were questioned by investigator of Office of the Co-Investigating Judges in relation to cases 03 and 04, and if so, how many times, when and where? Witness. Mr. President, in relation to case 003, I was interviewed once by Judge Ju Bun Leng and Frederick Feblong, and later on, the International Co-Investigating Judge Bolender assigned an investigator to question me at this court, and that lasted for 3 days, and I became unwell, and I was transferred back to Takmau prison. So allow me to confirm that for the last interview, I took part for a period of 3 days. Question. And before your appearance today, have you read or reviewed the written record of interviews that you made with the investigator or investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges in case 003 in order to refresh your memory? Witness. No, I do not read it in detail since I relied upon my recollection. Since my recollection still serves me well, and I can assure you that my responses would be more or less like the ones that I provided. Question. So, to your best recollection, can you tell the chamber whether the written records of your interview that you have read or reviewed in order to refresh your memory are consistent with what you provided to the co-investigating judges or investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges? Can you tell us whether the WRIs are consistent with what you said? Answer. Mr. President, in fact, I have not read the written record made by Investigator Thomas. And as I said, I relied on my personal memory. And I do not or have not read that written record. President, that is fine. However, we need to clarify that whether the written record is consistent with what you said. And that would be the basis for parties and the bench to put the questions to you in public during this trial. And pursuant to Rule 91B of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber will give the floor first to the co-prosecutors to put questions to Mr. Kang Kek-yew, and the combined time for the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers for civil parties are 4 days. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors, Counsel. Good morning, Mr. Kang Kek-yew. My name is Dale Lysak, and I will be asking you questions for a few days. I wanted to start, you were last in this courtroom in April 2012, 4 years ago. And after you finished your testimony, after you had left the courtroom, Noon Chea asked to address this court about your testimony. He did that after you had left. He didn't respond to questions after his statement. But I wanted to start by reading to you something that he said and to give you a chance to respond. Your Honors, I'm referring to the trial record from 18 April 2012 at 9:13 in the morning. This is what Mr. Noon Chea said that morning. Quote, "I would like to inform the Cambodian people that I have never had any time ever been responsible for the operation of S-21. What Deutsch has accused me has been untruthful and very unjust towards me. I have never ordered, I have never received any documents from Deutsch. I have never been the superior of Deutsch. End of quote. Mr. Witness, I'd like to start by giving you an opportunity to respond to what Nuon Chea said that morning.
Mr. Prosecutor, I'm surprised by the denial by Nuon. I could not believe that. S21 office, as well as all the police offices under the Communist Party of Cambodia, were under the leadership of the party, that is under the orders of the CPK, and the policies of the CPK to smash the enemy were produced in 1971 in the fourth party's congress, and that were when I was appointed as chief of the police office in the special zone. And that the police office in the special zone was under the direct leadership of a member of the standing committee, that is Von Wet. And in my previous testimony during the previous trial, Counsel Sun Arun put a question to me, asking me to make a statement whether I was with the Ministry of National Defense, that is under Son Sen. If so, what were the instructions from the Ministry of National Defense to me? And my response at the time was that S21 was created by Article 8 of the party's statute. And actually, Counsel Sun Arun asked me a few times on the same topic, and I still maintained my previous statement that Office 21 was created under Article 8 of the party's statute. And I actually told Counsel Sun Arun to seek the permission from the chamber to display Article 8 of the party statute so that Cambodian people and would know about it and the world would know about it. But Counsel Sun Arun declined to do that. And I am surprised by the denial by Uncle Nuon. Everybody has to respect the principles of the parties decided by the party, the secretary and the deputy secretary of the party. And that is the line of organization of the party. So his denial is nonsense.
We'll be talking about Nuon Chea throughout the time that I'll be asking you questions at various points. But I wanted to start by getting a overview from you of what Nuon Chea's involvement was in S21 in a general sense, both before the time Son Sen went to the Eastern battlefront and after the time Son Sen went to the Eastern battlefront. Can you tell us what Nuon Chea's role was in S21 during both those periods?
ជំរាប
Allow me to speak about the organizational structure of the party center. Bu Nuon was the Deputy Secretary of the party center, as well as a member of the political office of the party center. And the word they used at the time was the standby the committee or committee 870. And let me speak about members of the 870 and members of the party center. For the political party center, there were first of all Pol Pot, and second Bun Nun, and third Ieng Sari, and fourth Son Sen, and fifth Von Ved, and sixth Son Sen, and seventh Kieu Sampon. Maybe my numbering is not correct. First Pol Pot, second Bun Nun, third Ieng Sari, fourth Von Ved, fifth Son Sen, and sixth Kieu Sampon. That is about the office of the members of the office of the party center. And this political office of the party center, and if a similar structure existed in the party of China, they would refer to it as the office of the party center. However, for CPK, I never heard Son Sen speaking about the office of the party center. He only spoke about the standby committee or the 870 committee.
ខ្ញុំសូមបន្ថែមមួយម៉ាត់ទៀតអីចុះ
And allow me to add a bit more in order to clarify the issue. For the former resistance, usually they refer to the office of the party center as the office for the intellectuals, or they refer to the Phnom Penh's group. So that is the organizational structure. And from March 1976, that is after my appointment as chief of I-21, until the 15th of August 1977, I never met Bun Nun in person, not at all. And here I do not talk about Pol Pot, as I only saw him when he made a presentation of documents, and he was like 10 meters away from me, and I only saw him on the day of the national commemoration. So during this specific period of time, I never met Bun Nun in person, although Son Sen repeatedly mentioned his name and mentions about the members of the standing committee and about the 870 committee. And allow me to give you a real example. And since it has an impact upon my family members, Cao Li Tong, who my younger-in-law was arrested. And my in-law was arrested in Kampong Thom, and he secretly wrote me a letter, and I showed that letter to Son Sen. A moment after, my younger sibling and in-law were sent to S21. At that time, Son Sen said, kept them for now. And later on, he told me that Bong Noon, or Brother Noon, instructed me to interrogate them. So I knew that the purpose was for me to arrest them. So I questioned them without arresting them. However, later on, my younger-in-law made a mistake, and I had no choice but to make an arrest. And that is a real example that I can remember it well, that Son Sen has to seek permission from either Bong Noon or Pol Pot. And you may refer to a party's document that was probably published in February or March, and not the document that was produced on 10th of October. The document talk about the co-leaders, although the document did not specify about them exactly, but that the two leaders had to know about the situation, and in case that one leader was absent, another leader would be able to deal with the situation. And the example that I gave you is a clear show of this case, that Bong Noon actually instructed me to question my relative. And after 15 August 1977, when Son Sen received instruction to go to the front battlefield, Bong Noon came to work at where I worked, and that's when I told the investigating judges, that is Marcel Mong and Yu Bun Leng. And that's not the case that I was promoted, but actually Noon Chi came to work with a lower level, that is with me, because he was the one who received instructions from the office of the party center, and that to go down to all those police offices throughout the country. President, thank you. It is now convenient for our lunch break. We'll take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kyo Sampon to the waiting room downstairs, and having returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. Likewise, security personnel, you are instructed to take Kang Gek Il to the room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and having returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon at 1:30. The court is now in recess.